All right, so I just want to welcome Patricia Dillard to the LMAG questions for candidates session we're having prior to this special election for La Mesa City Council. Um, just gonna ask you some basic questions. Some might be easy, some might be tough. So hope you're prepared. I'm just gonna start off with kind of a question about yourself. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and your priorities.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me. I appreciate you guys waiting until 8 p.m. So thank you so much for that. Um, I'm Patricia Dillard. I've been living in La Mesa. We purchased our home back in 1996, and we raised our three children here. They're now all grown and out of the house, and but they all attended all of the schools here in La Mesa. So we are rooted in La Mesa and not planning on going anywhere. Um, my background basically is a combination of sales. I have um, a huge successful record in sales. I was ranked number 5 in the country with AT&T in sales, and I have business and marketing background. I also have a master's in organizational leadership. Um, as far as why I'm running, uh, most recently, I serve as the vice chair for the CPOB. For those of you who aren't familiar, I think you all should be familiar with CPOB, but it's Community Police Oversight Board. And I work side by side with Dr. Janet Castaños, and I proudly serve on that board and have worked for almost 2 years now, uh, pursuing criminal justice reform and working with the city of La Mesa and also the La Mesa Police Department. I'm running because they're, working with the task force and now the board, um, it has given me the incentive to go further with my work. Yes, we've had a lot of hard work that we've done so far, especially, helping to design the ordinances and the handbook guide and assisting with the way that the website now looks with the city of La Mesa. Um, we feel like we have it in a pretty good place going forward now that I recently played a part with another board member to help hire the independent police auditors or IPAs. And they're now busy at work trying to help us deliver answers for our community. So I just want to continue that work and do more for the city. I am endorsed by Dr. Akilah Weber. She chose me because I am a good representation of the city of La Mesa because of my roots with La Mesa and the community work that I've done over the past 25 years with La Mesa and with my church and with my work that I've done. I also have run my own business. I have a publishing company that I did for many years and worked with a lot of different businesses around town, mostly corporate enterprise was a lot of the publishing that I did. So I have a vast experience, and I think that that makes me extremely relatable for La Masons, and it's what La Masons want. They want someone who's rooted, someone that is just going to stay here and focus on the needs of the community and is interested in helping La Mesa get back on track post COVID, or I should say, kind of sort of post COVID as best as we can, and just continue moving to get better in this city. And I want to continue my work and help accomplish those goals.
Okay, sounds good. So you kind of took care of my second question there, which was going to be what has been your involvement with civic issues and which leadership roles have you held? And are you actively involved in any local groups? It sounds like you pretty much answered that one. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. There have been calls to defund police in states across the country, which has been seen as controversial for some people. We have a new police chief here in La Mesa, which presents an opportunity for change, at least for us. Talk about your relationship with the police and what qualifications you possess that may help push for reform in the La Mesa Police Department.
Well, first of all, I started working with who's now Chief of Police, Raymond Sweeney, when he was acting Chief of Police. And that started in January, I think, with our first meetings, he began meeting with us. And we've been working very closely with him. I have a very good relationship with him. I just spent my whole entire day last Wednesday with Chief Sweeney, helping us go through 10 candidates for sergeant. He has 2 open positions now, and he has 1 opening at the end of this year. So I worked all day. It was a complete day at the police department, just helping him choose what we thought would be good candidates for sergeant. As far as the accomplishments that we've done so far with the city of La Mesa and the La Mesa Police Department, we are definitely on our way because Chief Sweeney has decided to lean in and start working with us and accept a lot of the complaints. And he realizes that the La Mesa Police Department has a lot of issues, a lot of problems. And then he just simply needs to start addressing them and working on them. And he's willing to work with the board to do that. And then, I'm sorry, what was your other question at the end there?
It's basically just a follow up on that. What are your qualifications that may help you push for reform in the La Mesa Police Department?
Well, first of all, I'm an African-American female and I've raised 3 African-American children. My husband is African-American, and I have a ton of family members who are African-American. And our exposure with the La Mesa community has been tenuous at times. We've had a couple of issues that have come up. And while we have very good some of our police, or I should say most of our police officers are very good, there is issues with some of the bad ones, and we need to work hard to root them out, or at least find ways to work with them to see if we can get some issues resolved in regards to racism, inequality, and just we have issues with traffic stops and arrests. They're highly disproportionate. And as far as Black and brown, especially Black, a lot of bad statistics on that. And we have to really drill down and focus on why is it that the lowest population in the city of La Mesa is stopping so many Black and brown, especially African American. It's really disproportionate. And there is no excuse anymore, and we have to work on that. I qualify because I can not only sympathize, but I can empathize. I see the difference between how some people are treated versus others, especially Black and brown. And, it's a serious problem when we have a disproportionate amount of people who are the smallest group in the city that are targeted for, unknown reasons. I mean, there's no explanation as to why they're targeted. So, as I've been doing in the past, I have been bringing all of these issues. There's been several issues that have been brought up, not just this year, but last year. And we've worked hard to try to bring a lot of those issues to the table. And I know working with Chief Sweeney, it's been difficult for him to hear it because police officers have this, mindset that, oh, we just have a bunch of good guys. Well, obviously, they don't have a bunch of good guys. There's some guys that are not doing the right things. And I think when we're working with the IPA, which just came on board last month, that's the independent police auditors that I was talking about. I think that, we're going to be able to get a lot of these issues to come up to the surface, and we're going to be able to start dealing with them individually. And, Chief Sweeney has agreed to do that, and it starts at the top. And I think that my qualifications have been resonated throughout the board from the very beginning, and even in the beginning of last year when we were on the task force. I brought up I can't countless issues that need to be addressed, and it's been a methodical process, but I think that it's been prosperous, and I think it's going to get even better. And I think the city of La Mesa, the community who has written hundreds of letters, demanding change, and they want these issues addressed, and they want accountability, and they want transparency. And I believe that I am working very hard to deliver that, as well as other board members.
Okay, sounds good. We appreciate your hard work in doing that. So this one's kind of similar topic, but I guess not too similar. What is your stance on Defend East County, the DEC groups, and other vigilante groups that have kind of worked their way into our communities?
Yeah, that's mostly an East County issue. I imagine that there are some that are here in La Mesa, the city of La Mesa. And the only way to deal with that is to um, address it head on. If these parties are willing to sit down and talk, I think that that's one way of addressing those issues. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about issues that are happening on school grounds, public schools can do work to address this. If you're talking about parents that are actually participating in that, then that's something to be addressed, where it could be done through the schools if they have children in the schools, and they're teaching their children to have this type of behavior. Then that definitely can be addressed through the schools. If you're just talking about in general the community itself, it's unfortunate that we have such a small group that can make such a horrific impact on the reflection of the community. So, these issues have to be discussed with the police department, so that they can tell us what they can do to address these issues. Obviously, our citizens need to report anything that they see. See something, say something. Needs to happen every single time, and our community needs to be encouraged to report these people so that the police department can address those issues. So it's just a head-on issue where some people, you're never going to be able to change them. They're always going to be, I don't know, wicked or racist, or and choose to portray that in the most visible way as possible. But the only thing that we can do is address it head on and try to do it in the most nonviolent way possible.
Okay, and then moving on to the next question. How would you address the needs of underprivileged groups in La Mesa, like people of color and immigrant communities?
Well, one of the things I suggested with the Friends of Library, because they want a new library, I suggested that they focus on programs that will address and attract more people to attend, because a library is not just a place to go and find books anymore. But these programs can be created by really good teachers and other educators, along with business people, that will attract disadvantaged children where they can get the help that they need. A lot of times we have maybe some teachers that can't address that directly. They're either uninformed about how to address it, or they want to address it, but there's no training to assist. And I think that one of the ways that we could do is work through the new library, if the task force is able to come up with a good program that is accepted by the city council, where we could, have that extra help that's needed for children that need that extra time and attention and help. It could be dyslexia. It could be that there's too many issues going on at home. Where maybe they're not being fed properly, or they don't have enough food to eat, or other issues. Someone in the family doing drugs, or some other kind of abuse. So there's many issues to address when it comes to education. But I think if we had an extra program where we could reach out to the parents and the children and try to get them to participate in those programs, I think that that would be a huge benefit to everyone, not just the child, but to everyone, that they grow up and be a productive citizen in the community.
Okay, and then just kind of a follow-up on that, do you think La Mesa could do anything to improve upon or implement programs that would be more beneficial or helpful to immigrant families that may be displaced or looking for a new community to become a part of?
Well, I don't know how much of a number of displaced or immigrant children, there are in the city of La Mesa. I don't have statistics on that. I don't have exposure for that. But I would say that just like in the public schools, they do have programs to help with like English as a second language. There could be other issues that are similar to our other minority children, especially Black and Brown, where maybe there's other issues, in regards to these children. But I think that some of it could be dealt with right in the public schools, and then any after-school programs where we could encourage them to go. I know that even when my children were attending Helix High School, I know that my youngest daughter struggled with, geography at one point, and she went back behind the school at the local church, and they had a program back there to help tutor students that needed extra help with math. So there's always ways to reach out to the community as well to help address issues. No matter what a child's need, we should be able to work with the schools and work to address those.
Okay, and then we're gonna, so the next question would be, the city of La Mesa adopted a homeless action plan. Have you seen any good solutions put forward, and what do you think are the most pressing issues regarding the houseless in our community?
Well, I think the program has been very successful. I wouldn't say that it addresses every issue, but it does have some measure of success. I have been communicating with other homelessness organizations, nonprofit organizations, that also have really effective programs. Challenges with their programs is that they don't necessarily have enough resources. So as far as dealing with the homeless, it's a multifaceted issue. There isn't just one way to address issues, because there's many issues. We have mental health. I know that the home program helps with that, as well as the police department is working very diligently to try to address that. But to be honest with you, they really don't want to. But there's so many calls for mental health issues that they're in some cases overwhelmed. It just depends on what night or what day. A lot of times our homeless sleep in the daytime because they're not safe at night. Also, too, there's homeless that sleep in their cars and would be happy to go to work, except for their car is broken down. And so we need resources that actually we already, the city of La Mesa has received resources through the COVID-19, through the Biden program. They've been, dispersed quite a few funds that could be reallocated to help with homelessness and with the home program. And another thing that I don't think that we're utilizing and we could do better at is to create more grants for churches and the nonprofit organizations that are dealing directly with issues regarding homelessness. That we could source a lot of different ways. In other words, there's not just one way. It's not just the home program. We need a lot of groups that are coordinating and having a coordinated effort to address the homelessness. And I really truly believe that we can come up with some programs that will work for some of the churches that are already trying to help, but they're limited on their resources. And also the nonprofit organizations, as well as continue to work to enhance the home program.
Thank you. And then what is your opinion on the soon-to-be Arts and Culture Commission?
I'm sorry, you said, what is my opinion? I'm sorry.
Yes, your opinion.
On the Homes and Cultures program?
The
Arts.
Arts and Culture Commission that was just, I guess, implemented, or they're going to start putting that together. What is your opinion on that, as far as arts and cultural development here in the community of Mesa?
Well, I think that number one, it could be something that's also incorporated with the Friends of the library, as well as there's other ways to enhance that program. And I'm highly supportive of it, because research has proven that this stimulates especially young minds, and it also has a way of bringing our community together, just like music does. And it crosses many lines that normally maybe people wouldn't cross, bringing people together. And I'm very supportive of it, very supportive of it. I think that we should encourage our businesses to have an opportunity to share some of that art, to display some of that art, and that we should use it for as many events as we can here in the community that we regularly hold on an annual basis. And it should, we should incorporate it wherever we can within our city.
Sounds good. So then moving right along, do you support Jack Shus' climate initiative? What ways will this affect La Mesa? And why is it important for La Mesa to work towards these goals?
Well, our environment is so important because we're so behind. And we need to make necessary changes to start to get a lot of the issues in regards to climate under control. And so, we needed to start, yesteryear, long time ago. So I am in support of Jack Shus' initiative. And I would like to see it go forward. And we have an opportunity to make many changes as we go forward with building and transit and just many other issues. Uh, Even when I think of the Cottonwood sand mine, I'm extremely bothered by the fact that we have um, an owner that has requested a permit to run these huge trucks up and down our freeways, the 125, the 15, the 8. And this is supposed to go on for 10 years, trucking in these huge amounts of sands every day. So there's so many environmental issues of La Mesa, and I want to be able to stay on top of that so that we continue to focus on lower emissions and building our new construction near the trolley lines like we're projecting to do, and to continue to encourage people to take transit and use less cars, and keep the traffic volume down, and still be able to have a community that a lot of La Mesans have grown to love and adore, and still want to live here year after year.
Okay, now I'm going to start getting into the little bit tougher questions here. So we currently have 4 Democratic candidates running against 2 Republicans for the 1 seat that's available now. There's a lot of concern in the progressive community that we may be splitting the vote and we may lose to Laura Lothian. Can you address those concerns? Do you also share that concern? And do you feel that it would be important for us to try to consolidate the vote behind a single candidate?
I can't answer whether people want to vote or get behind a single candidate because, that's not my decision. I was endorsed by Dr. Akilah Weber, and she had an opportunity to choose other candidates, and she chose me. She chose me for a reason, a specific reason. The reason is that I am a reflection of how our community looks. I am a reflection of who our community is. In other words, the fact that I am rooted here. We've watched this city grow over the past 25 years. And as I walk, knock, and talk to voters, that's what they tell me. They want someone who is not seeking for a higher office, but someone who is looking to just stay here and help La Mesans and work to resolve their issues and get La Mesa back on track and push forward with progressive ideas that are going to be helpful for La Mesa and will, address the growth issue that we have here, but do it in a way that's, sensible and well thought through with as much transparency as possible. And I am a reflection of La Mesa. And so I believe that, with that and the fact that La Mesans truly loved Dr. Akilah, they were very sad to see her go. And I know this because of I've been walking, knocking, and talking to voters since May. And I do this religiously every evening during the week and also include the weekends. and they really loved the work that she did, and they trust that the person that she has selected to take her seat will follow in those footsteps. And for that reason, I believe that I have a very good chance of winning this election.
Okay, and then let's see, got out of order here. So kind of following along that same line, in this political climate that we're in right now, with all the division and differences of opinions and facts not mattering anymore, how do you propose to get things done on your agenda?
Well, my understanding is that there is no training, and that they just kind of give you a bunch of stuff, and it's just go. So I will be prioritizing based on my platform. My platform is public safety, criminal justice reform, and homelessness, as well as focusing in on affordable housing and ways to, help build unions here in La Mesa and keep them involved, and focus on the living working wage that needs to happen here in La Mesa, and you know, just prioritize based on those issues. So, I will be addressing issues as they come up, but at the same time, I do have some ideas on some things that I would like to pursue, and I'm hoping to work with the city council to get some of those items done. I already have a very good working relationship with the mayor. I have a very good working relationship with the rest of the council members, and they all know me well. I also have an extremely good working relationship with the city of La Mesa. And so I'm expecting to be able to gain their support as well. They know me very well. So, the agenda will be, in line with my platform and priorities based on that.
Okay. And then kind of following along with the statement that you made, how do you balance the need for housing and concerns of the community to keep La Mesa's family feel, small town kind of community feel?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of things to consider, but the main issue is that we cannot ignore the fact that the city is growing, right? So we have to be able to accommodate uh, growth. Um, Not everybody can buy a home in La Mesa. Some of the prices of homes are over $1 million. Um, some of them are less, but even to buy a home for a $500,000 or $600,000, it's not necessarily affordable for everyone else. Um, I think that we should have a nice mix of condos or townhomes or both. And I also think that we need to continue to work with developers that want to build along the trolley lines. I'm a huge supporter of that. But I think that we really have to make sure that if it is apartments, especially apartments, that a portion of those apartments should be affordable housing. And I think that if we work on that in the very beginning with developers, and we get something set in place, that we can continue that going with every project that comes across the desk of city council. And that's how I plan on focusing on addressing the growth issue for La Mesa, because we can't ignore it. It's inevitable. We have to build. As far as single family residents are concerned, we already have single family residents. There's no reason for us to really worry about that. I have seen some residents that have chosen to build properties in the back of their yards. And for some that are faced up to an alley, perhaps that is a way for them to either, live in one unit and rent out, the property in the front or whatever. I know that people are trying to find better ways to earn money, or utilize the size of their land to make that beneficial. But for the most part, we have a lot of residents that they're just residents and they just want to make sure that the travel is okay. They don't want to wait in line to get on the freeway so that they can go to work. So there's other issues that we have to address as far as parking is concerned, making sure that we put those new projects where we've thought out the parking, so that we're not jamming up the side streets of people who are trying to get to work, and all they want to do is get on the freeway. So there's a lot to consider there, but I think that's a good way to focus on how the city of La Mesa City Council should be going forward.
So just to follow up on that one, do you think that La Mesa should develop some specific standards for developers, builders that they would have to meet as far as parking, access to streets, access to highways, to kind of make sure that we're not, I guess, putting too many people in a small area without that access that you mentioned?
You mean like make a policy?
If that's a possibility, like kind of have a set standard for the builders and what they need to do to meet that criteria, if
You
if
know,
at all.
yeah, I, you know, I would have to be on city council, learn about those ordinances, learn about what's already put in place before I could really answer that question. Um, I am a person that would definitely be open to hearing about how that might be accomplished if it's at all possible. I couldn't say that it is possible because I have no way of knowing that. Um, but I would definitely be willing to listen, at least at first, to find out what the possibilities could be and what would that mean for the city of La Mesa. And I would certainly want to hear from the city of La Mesa in regards to that issue.
Okay, that's fair. So let's see here. And then what other issues do you see as pressing in La Mesa? Things that you think are important to the community, and the citizens of La Mesa?
Well, one of the issues that I'm a little bit concerned about is the west side of La Mesa. I would like to see, you know, maybe a redesigning, if you will, of how we can bring in more businesses. I would be willing to consider, properties that want to have, for instance, restaurants or shops or barbershops, whatever, on the bottom and unit living on the top. Maybe just a little bit more of a urban feel. Um, and um, and then use incentives to drive more businesses to that area and just kind of build it up a little bit, clean it up a little bit. I'm referring to like the El Cajon Boulevard, west side of El Cajon Boulevard. So I would like to see that. I know that one of the things that I am participating in, I co-chair in, to give you an example of a flavor, is I'm co-chairing in doing Juneteenth 2022. We're in the process of working that out. And right now it's set to take place at the La Mesa Arts Academy on the school grounds. And while we're hoping for great success for our first one in 2022 for Juneteenth, I would like to see that event be an annual event and grow. And one of the things that we could do, for instance, with this particular event is move it up to that area. If we could get more businesses involved and try to incentivize them with more things happening. I know that we have the Village, which is awesome. It's a great mix. It's an eclectic mix. It is a historical mix. Um, and they have plenty of events and restaurants and shops and everything going on, but it shouldn't be the only place in La Mesa. So, that's, one of the things that I would like to pursue, talk to some of the owners up there and get their feedback on it and see if we can't find ways to, bring a little bit more construction and a little bit more of a urban design that will attract young people who just want to go to walkable restaurants and shops and but they don't want to leave the city. They want to, they want to eat out, they want to shop, and they like that personal ability to be able to just, put the kids in, in their strollers and whatnot and walk on down to a restaurant or visit a place. And I think that there's in, other places where we could have other things going on so people have a larger selection of places that they'd like to go.
I can agree with that. That's why we live in La Mesa, because we like to be able to walk down and enjoy everything without having to drive everywhere. So that's pretty much all of the questions that we had lined up. I think one of our members who joined us tonight also have a question. So I'll go ahead and open everything up, and just if someone has a question, go ahead and come on and ask what you have to ask.
Well, I actually see one from Melissa. She asks, what are accomplishments, requirements that you see as making for a good sergeant? And I don't know if you were in with me in the very beginning, Melissa, but I talked about how I just met with the La Mesa Police Department for an entire day last Wednesday to help them choose two sergeants right now because there's two seats open, and then another one for the end of the year. And as far as the quality or what to look for that would be the making of a good sergeant, I think is several things. First of all, it needs to be a person who is very level-headed and thoughtful, someone who is compassionate for the job that they are doing and compassionate for their officers that they will be over. I also think that, while the standard is that you have to know all of the policy and procedure, but they need to be able to be a good communicator. They need to be able to communicate well with their officers, and they need to be able to set examples of how to communicate with our residents. And so, it sounds like a simple thing, but those are really hard things when you're drilling down and really trying to pull that information out of a person to determine whether they have what it takes to be a sergeant. And we're looking as a vice chair for the CPOB, we're looking for Chief Sweeney to make sure that he has chosen sergeants that are willing to go out into the field and mingle with their officers as well as the community. So we want someone who is not just, standing over officers and, verifying whether they're doing a good job, but actually is, working to get to know them a little bit better, because over time, what happens with police officers is that life changes, right? Things happen, you get divorced or someone dies, or, many issues happen to police officers just like they do the rest of us. And so we want sergeants that are going to be honed in and paying attention to what's going on with our officers and noticing if an officer seems stressed or overreacting to an issue that maybe that sergeant is detecting is not really quite normal or out of the norm for that officer. And so we want someone who is got the compassion and the care for the officers and for the community, and can set good examples on how to de-escalate and continue that training in the field. So that's what we're looking for in a sergeant. And I I believe with all my heart that Chief Sweeney understands that. I've communicated that to him. He's been communicated to the board what we want, and I believe he understands that. And those are the people that we selected when we interviewed all those people last week, and there were 10 candidates, which, by the way, they were all fully qualified candidates. It's just that some of those candidates obviously rose to the top, and we wanted to make sure that Chief Sweeney was aware of who we thought those people were.
So just to follow up to that, what do you think would be a good way for the police chief and I guess just La Mesa PD overall to develop and maintain a good relationship within the community and open communication with the community?
Well, the CPOB does have a work plan, but I'll just share a few with you because I know we're running out of time. We need to find different ways that the police officers can interact with the community so that it is a positive situation. That's probably one of the top things that the La Mesa Police Department needs to work on in regards to the community. And it can't be, a ride with a cop or coffee with a cop, which is something I think is like 100 years old. For different reasons. I won't go into those reasons because it's detailed, but what I would say is that the police officers need to be involved when positive things are going on. Sometimes, well, what I suggested, actually, one good example is for Juneteenth that's planned for next year. We've invited all the police officers. We know they're not all going to come. But we invited them because we wanted to have an open invitation, but we wanted them to come with their families in plain clothing and just mingle around like everybody else and eat the food and listen to the music and learn the history of Juneteenth and just have a community spirit-filled day like we plan for everyone else. They need to be in positive environments instead of the same people seeing the same negative. Every time they come in contact with a police officer, it's a negative experience for them. And so they're, acutely aware of it, especially Chief Sweeney. And he is working on different ways to get the police department involved in positive community interaction. And it comes with events, and it comes with, beats, walk beats. It comes with interacting at our schools, our local schools, from high school to elementary school. We need to have interaction with our police officers. It needs to be a part of their week, their day, their month.
Okay, well, I think unless anybody else has any questions or comments or anything, that's
I think
pretty much it.
Jeff Waller has a question.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry, Jeff just had to steal your thunder at anything. I'm sorry. I got sort of a bigger kind of question. It sort of relates to that last question a little bit. Do you think that local city councils, like La Mesa City Council, has any obligation in working towards better educating the populace to, well, this is kind of a strange question, about de-radicalizing some of the some of the citizens of various cities. So we have some trouble to the east of us that sort of flows over into our area sometimes. I don't know. I'm almost certain you know some of that. But this idea of just education and communication better about what the homeless outreach has done, the actual statistics on homelessness. I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of misunderstandings, and I don't know if there's a way to move certain people or if they're just not movable. But just at least making that attempt. That's a very broad question I just asked. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that is a broad question. I mean, every person has an opportunity to be an example of themselves and their behavior. And sometimes the way to answer a what's the right word? An insult or just a person who or people who have a very adverse reaction to making it well known, whatever it is that they're angry about, to lash out. You know, a lot of times is just with a soft answer, to be honest with you. Can you de-radicalize everyone? No, I don't think so. Anyone who wants to be angry is going to be angry. Anyone who wants to be, you know, harmful or abrasive or insulting or even, you know, someone who gives you the impression that they are going to assault you in some fashion. You know, I don't think that we can get into everyone's mind. But I do think that there are ways that we can continue to work in our community to help bring people together. So, just like we were talking about the arts and how we were talking about events, you know, it's on a larger scale. And this is a free country. You're free to think and do whatever you want to do as long as it's within the law of the land. But I would continue to try to do peaceful things and to encourage our neighbors. And when I say that, I mean people who we come in contact with, as well as our surrounding neighbors that we live with, to always address people in a peaceable manner. You know, there, there's only ourselves that we can use as an example on how to do that. And I would recommend that people try very hard not to lose their temper with people who are, indignant or out of control. And if they are, that we call the police on them and explain, what's happening. And, if we feel like that we need to be protected. And, again, it's, I mean, we have the police department that are out there defending us every day against people like this. They're very aware of it. I have talked to the police department about it. And they do want to, stop that behavior, but they have to break the law in order for the police officers to do anything about it. But there's no way to get in people's heads except for one thing that I can think of to help bring the volume down is to create more jobs. Because if you have a job, then you're too busy working to be angry.
Sounds good to me. So we're going to end it there. Again, Patricia, we thank you very much for joining us, coming on board and answering some difficult questions along with the easy ones.
Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate everybody's coming in so late and taking the time to meet and greet with me. I really appreciate that. And I hope that I would have gained some of your votes.